Hello, Horror Stories. My name is Christopher. What I'm about to tell happened in 2016 when I was attending college in Southern California. At the time, I lived in New Mexico, but I moved away to study law. I prefer not to mention the name of the university out of respect, since it is very popular in California, and I do not want to cause fear to the students and professors who attend there. I had a professor who taught classes on American law, usually in the morning, but every Friday he did it in the afternoon. He was a very nice man, always willing to help us with evaluations and very patient with us. He knew that this subject was crucial for our career and that we had to pass it, so he always behaved in an understanding and professional manner. One afternoon around 7, while I was reviewing a book that our teacher had sent us to read, I remember that I was home and it was already dark. Suddenly, my cell phone started ringing. A college friend had sent me a Facebook link on WhatsApp. Upon opening it, I saw the first images of our university and read a text reporting that an armed man had barricaded himself in the building. By then, the entire university was cordoned off, with the presence of police, helicopters, and reporters covering the scene. As I continued reading the news, they reported that authorities were attempting to contact the barricaded man, trying to negotiate a peaceful surrender. The situation was very delicate. With every word I read, I felt my nerves increasing more and more. But that was not all. I felt a chill when I read that a teacher had tried to stop the aggressor to protect the students who were in a room next to the library. The aggressor began to shoot, fatally wounding the teacher, who was left lying on the ground, losing his life. Upon reading the name, I began to shake, scream, and kick everything within my reach. A deep helplessness and sadness invaded me when I discovered that it was my professor, the one who gave us law classes in the mornings and on Friday afternoons. This dedicated and kind person, with an impressive vocation, had tried to protect his students until the last moment. The following days were one of mourning and reflection. A vigil was organized on campus, where students, faculty, and staff gathered to pay tribute to the fallen professor. Candles were lit, and flowers were placed at the spot where the incident had occurred. The words of the professor's friends, family, and colleagues echoed in the air, highlighting his dedication and the positive impact he had had on the lives of many. In a solemn ceremony, it was decided to render me the library in honor of the professor. This gesture symbolized not only his sacrifice, but also his passion for education and his commitment to students. A commemorative plaque was placed at the entrance to the library, reminding everyone of his heroism and dedication. The following week, another teacher replaced him to continue classes, but an inexplicable emptiness was felt. A few weeks passed, and we met my classmates in the library, preparing for an exam. We had stayed after class, and there was no one else left at the university, just us. While we were talking, suddenly we heard crying coming from the next room, the same one where the tragedy had occurred. Since that day, that room had been closed and disabled. We all fell silent and looked at each other as the crying became even louder. One friend kept saying, "It's got to be a joke," while another friend and I decided we had to find out what was going on. We were the only ones who dared to go. Our other colleague preferred to stay. He was very scared. We walked slowly, following the sound of crying, which seemed to be that of a man. When we got to the living room, we knew there was a window upstairs. Since I was the tallest, I linked my hands to lift my friend up and allow him to look inside. We had to know who was there. My friend quickly climbed in, and just as he looked out the window, the crying stopped. "There's no one," he commented to me as he jumped to the ground. I insisted that he get back on because it couldn't be possible. He went up again and stayed for a few minutes watching. Finally, he said, "Christopher, the room is empty. There's no one here." We ran away immediately. We knew that the crying was coming from that room. There were no more classrooms in that sector, and classes had ended more than an hour ago, so there was no one else on campus. We went home thinking that that cry was coming from our late teacher. That night, crying echoed in my mind, and I couldn't fall asleep. The teacher was an exceptional person, but hearing that lament coming from that classroom was a terrifying experience, which caused me a lot of fear. Every time I closed my eyes, it seemed like the echo of crying resonated even louder in my head. I felt trapped in a state of restlessness and anxiety, unable to escape that disturbing memory. Even when he finally managed to sleep, he was tormented by restless dreams, where the figure of the professor and his tragic fate appeared again and again. It was as if his presence continued to haunt me even in my moments of rest. The next day, during break, we were telling a friend what had happened the day before. However, she laughed and scolded us, saying that we shouldn't joke about our late professor, before walking away quite upset. But Peter, the building's janitor, heard us and approached with a completely serious face. He told us, "Guys, I believe you. Not only do I hear noises coming from that room, but I have also seen someone looking out of that window. I couldn't see who or what it was, but I know it was the silhouette of a person. Just thinking about it has caused me panic, and I pray for the professor's soul and that he rest in peace. I don't dare go closer to see what it is about. Whenever I hear something, I leave immediately." We were plunged into a deep silence. I started to sweat hearing his words. I felt momentary relief knowing that someone believed us. But at the same time, a deep fear came over me as I realized it was a lost soul from beyond. And everyone there knew that this man was telling the truth. He was an older man, highly respected by the university. Furthermore, he was very polite and did not usually engage in conversation or joke with us. He always greeted us from a distance and asked us how we were, but nothing more. However, as we listened, we realized he needed to share his experience. I couldn't help but ask him what kind of noises he was hearing and since when, since I was very curious. He told us that, when he was in the library, he heard the few benches that were left in that room being dragged and as if someone was writing on the blackboard, but that it didn't take him a second to leave there because it terrified him. He also told us that, one night shortly after that misfortune, he heard cries and claimed that there was no one left at the university. He had come all the way and knew that there was only him. He says it was creepy to hear crying coming from there and see how the light inside the room flickered incessantly. Before leaving, he asked us to light a candle when we got home and pray for the professor, suggesting that perhaps his lost soul had most likely been trapped in that room due to his terrible fate. We thanked Peter for sharing his experience with us and for trusting us enough to share it with us. When I returned home, I lit a white candle, wrote his name on a piece of paper, and prayed for him. After a few years we graduated, but unfortunately shortly after the university went bankrupt and closed its doors. Now it is abandoned. I happened to pass by there on a business trip, and I can't imagine what it would be like to walk into that building at night there. The grasslands covered the entrance, you could barely see it. The entrance sign was rusty and the walls were full of writings. This story has disturbed a large part of my life, with those cries that come to my mind again and again during the night, preventing me from falling asleep for a long time, and that paranormal events really exist. If you have enjoyed this story, we invite you to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any others. Until next time.